Hi everyone, welcome to part 2 of my Othello video where I analyzed the entire play. Hopefully you watched part 1 with Act 1 and Act 2. I will link it in the description box, and let's move straight on to Act 3. Cassio prepares to speak to Desdemona after Iago urges for him to speak to her instead of Othello. Iago tells him that he will make sure that Othello never comes in and that they can speak freely, and Cassio shouldn't worry because of course Desdemona is this honest soul who will make sure that two friends are reconciled in no time. And don't push it with Othello, it'll all come in time. And Cassio says to himself that he never knew a Florentine more kind and honest. And Emilia says that Desdemona and Othello are discussing what to do about Cassio. Although Othello and Desdemona both love Cassio, it will be quite difficult to reinstate him since the man he hurt is quite important, so they can't just brush off the issue really quickly. And well, of course she says that they genuinely love him, so he should hope for the best, and hopefully it will all sort itself out soon. Notice how actually Othello and Desdemona are discussing what to do about Cassio together. So although it is Othello's decision alone, since he's the commander, he's actually consulting his wife, once again showing his positive attitude, and he actually genuinely respects her and loves her, and so he wants to know her opinion. Cassio in the final scene comes to talk to Desdemona, and she says that if I do vow a friendship, I'll perform it to the last article. She thinks that Cassio is an honest man, and of course she knows how much Othello loves Cassio and how absolutely crushed he is that Cassio made a mistake, and so she wants to reconcile the two of them together because she just wants her husband to be happy. She genuinely loves him, so his happiness is one of her priorities as well, and so she promises Cassio that she will make sure that Othello is always thinking about him, so it will be easier for him to take the decision to eventually get Cassio back, since, well, he's constantly occupied and knows that they had all these years of brilliant friendship and it's only one mistake. And this is part of Iago's genius, that he knows that Desdemona will want to help out her husband, and so he uses her own goodness against her in the regard that he will then make sure that Othello thinks that she talks about Cassio because she loves him rather than Othello. Cassio leaves when he sees Othello approaching because he's too ashamed to face him, and I wish he didn't because maybe things would have turned out differently. Instead, what happens is Othello says that, well, he's had a think, he's right, it's only one mistake, he's ready to reinstate Cassio, but then Iago plays the hesitant part, and he says that men should be what they seem, hypocritical, isn't it, and that I think Cassio's an honest man, but because of his doubt and because of his years cultivating a very faithful and trustworthy persona, Othello wants to know his opinion, and then he says he would rather people steal money because that's recoverable rather than my good name, which really leaves you poor. Iago also warns to beware, my lord, of jealousy, which is true. He should beware of it because this is ultimately his ruin at the end, but Iago uses truth to mix it with lie to make a sort of message that says, well, you should be jealous, but you should also be careful because it seems that Cassio and Desdemona, there's something going on. Desdemona. He also points out that Desdemona did deceive her father, and although she loved Othello the most, although she loves Othello, she also loved him the most when it was forbidden, so he's implying that maybe she has a thing for forbidden romances, and that he should be careful because now that she's married and she wants Cassio, perhaps her insatiable appetite will go that way too, and he urges Othello to not reinstate Cassio back just yet, to instead watch the two of them very, very carefully, and to think about how Iago knows all qualities with a learned spirit. Othello thinks about this and decides to trust him. And then he says that the curse of marriage is actually that we can call these creatures ours, but not their insatiable appetites. So he no longer thinks of Desdemona as his beautiful, faithful wife. She's a creature to him now. Slowly this jealousy is beginning to grow in him, and look, it's exactly what Cassio said. Without reputation, you're just a beast. So he's letting go of his reputation as this man who actually thinks about it. He's letting jealousy take control, and now he thinks of her as a creature. He's already losing sight of his love for her. And also he falls into Iago's belief that women have this insatiable appetite and are born to cheat, so it's almost a shame that he can possess that he can't really possess her. She ceases to be this actual human being for him. And you'll also notice that Desdemona, when she's around when she's around Othello, or when she's talking to Othello, she's actually less shy. So her father described her as this timid soul, but actually she really likes Othello, and she feels very comfortable like around him. And although this could be because Brabantio didn't really know his daughter that well, because for him she was just an eyepiece, she was just a way for him to flaunt his wealth, to like buy her jewelry, to say, oh, look how pretty she is, and she belongs to me, so you better pay me. I'm going to pick out the suitor that I want, so you have to be good around me. Then Desdemona comes in, and Othello, so jealous, he can't really believe that this is it. This is his wife who's cheating on him. And so he acts a bit like different than he usually does around her. He's not fully comfortable, and he just pegs it on being sick. He says, oh, like, I'm not feeling well, sorry. And Desdemona, of course, she cares for him, so she grabs the handkerchief that he gave to her, and she tries to dab at his forehead, but he pulls away and he leaves. And Desdemona thinks like, oh no, he feels really bad. She follows after him, and because she's so concerned for her darling husband, she leaves the handkerchief behind. And this is a special handkerchief because Othello gave her this handkerchief when they first started to go out. So it's one of their key remembrances, and she always keeps it close to her. And Emilia, her servant, who's actually Iago's wife, she thinks that, oh no, like, she dropped the handkerchief, this is something very important for her. But then she also remembers that her husband wanted the handkerchief for himself, and because she loves her husband, she just wants to please his fantasy, and so she picks up the handkerchief and decides to give it to him, even though she knows that it's important for Desdemona, because she figures, what's the harm? Iago comes in. He banters with Emilia. He doesn't really treat her well. He treats her like an object. He doesn't allow her to express her opinion. But then Emilia pulls out her handkerchiefs and goes like, oh, look what I got for you. But Iago doesn't even thank her. He just views it as something that she should have done. He takes the handkerchief. After that, Iago, armed with the handkerchief, meets with Othello and says that he has proof of his wife's cheating. But Othello was reassured by Desdemona's like honest resourcefulness, her open face, and he actually gets mad at Iago, and he says like, how could you do this? Stop with your poison, you're ruining my perception of my wife. But then Iago quickly uses his emotions and like appears hesitant, apologizes, says, oh yeah, you're right, like, I'm probably seeing nothing. And then of course Othello is saying, what do you mean you're seeing nothing? And then Iago makes up a story that recently he was lying down with Cassio, like they were sleeping together, not like romantically sleeping, but just like sleeping together. And then he says that Cassio was moaning Desdemona's name in his sleep, and that Cassio admitted to him that he actually slept with Desdemona, and that he genuinely loves her and feels affectionate towards her. Furthermore, he points out that he actually saw Cassio wipe his beard with a handkerchief with strawberries. He's careful to not let slip that it's like he knows how important the handkerchief is for them. He just says that, oh, he had Desdemona's handkerchief, they probably met together. And of course Othello is furious because it's an important romantic keepsake for him, and now he's like fully ready to not trust Desdemona, and he just goes along with Iago because he believes what he's saying. He has no cause to question him, and he also doesn't even think to question Desdemona. He just trusts like his guy friend rather than the person she loves because she's a woman. And he says, oh, blood, blood, blood. Othello is furious, and Iago, just to make sure, asks him if he's going to change his mind, and he confirms to make sure that Othello is looking for revenge. Within the 3 days, let me hear thee say that Cassio's not alive. Iago is quick to say that, oh no, but Cassio is my friend, but I respect you, you're my commander, of course this will be done. And then he says, what about Desdemona? But Othello is inclined to let her live, and he wants to seek revenge, and he makes Iago lieutenant, and he leaves. Desdemona continues to look for her handkerchief. Othello shows up and he starts questioning her about the handkerchief, and he makes up a whole story that like his mother had the handkerchief and she got it in the desert when she was traveling, and he says there's magic in the web of it. And Desdemona, panicked, says, well, it's good that I didn't lose it, right? Because she knows that it's important for their relationship, and she also wants Othello to trust her, to know that she's responsible. And so she just says that, oh yeah, it's in my room. And so Desdemona tries to change the topic of the conversation to Cassio, but this makes Othello mad since he thinks that, well, it's Cassio who she gave it to, so like the audacity of her bringing him up, he storms out. We switch to Cassio, and Cassio finds the handkerchief in his room. Just as he's thinking what to do with it, Bianca comes in, and Bianca really likes Cassio and she admires him, but Cassio doesn't really love her back, and he figures, well, I just found this handkerchief in my room, whatever, I'll give it to her, it's pretty. So Bianca happily takes the handkerchief and leaves. And there's no reason to think anything wrong of the handkerchief, right? Because he just found it, so like maybe someone dropped it, whatever, he'll give it to Bianca. This is part of Iago's genius because he didn't know exactly what Cassio was going to do if he found the handkerchief, but he figured that he wouldn't think anything of it, so he just took the risk and he let him have it. Iago gets Othello into a fit of rage again, reminding him of the handkerchief. He also says that Cassio has actually told him that he slept with Desdemona, and Othello starts mumbling incoherently. He goes into this fit. He's like just mumbling and saying like, how can this be? It's almost like he's epileptic. He's going into an actual fit and he faints. And I think this is also important, that he loses his ability to speak and to think clearly. He just starts rambling like a beast. And while Othello loses control of his emotions and falls into this fit, Iago turns to the audience and says, "Thus credulous fools are caught, and many worthy and chaste dames, even thus, O guiltless meet reproach." While Othello is unconscious, tired out from his fit, Cassio comes in, and Iago uses his quick wit to improvise and say, "Oh, well, have you never seen him like this before? It's the second fit. He's been like this for a while. It's all the stress. It's really getting to him. And you know, Cassio, you really contributed to it with your mistake. It will be better if you don't trigger him further, so just like don't help." He notices that Othello is waking up and he gets Cassio to talk about Bianca. And Bianca is, like, as I said, this woman who loves Cassio, but to Cassio her feelings are more of an amusement because he doesn't really love her back. So when Iago is talking to him about Bianca, he has this attitude like, "Oh yeah, like she's so foolish, like isn't it funny?" And Othello, because he thinks they're talking about his wife Desdemona, is absolutely furious that Cassio not only is cheating on him, like cheating on his wife and cheating on his best, like he's just essentially discarding his best friend, but he also treats it like a source of entertainment, like a source of amusement. And notice also how Othello has stooped to literal spying. Like before he's this commander, his name is like the name of the play. He fully is at the center of the performance, and now he's like this peeping Tom, spying on his friends and thinking, oh my god, because this is what jealousy has done to him. After that, Bianca runs in and she's furious with Cassio because now that she actually gets over him giving her a gift and reciprocating her emotions in some way, she realizes that this is somebody else's handkerchief. And so she starts yelling at him like, "How can you do this? You're cheating on me even though they're not actually dating." And she runs away because she's of course emotional. She thinks that not only does he not love her back, but he's also making fun of her, which is also true, right? So she runs out, and then Iago quickly goes like, "Oh Cassio, I know you're not reciprocating, but that's not really good, go chase her." So Cassio follows her out, and then Othello, of course, and Iago, they talk about what happened, and Iago spits more poison into Othello's ears. Othello is now more convinced than ever that Cassio must die, and so what happens next is that essentially he's saying that, yeah, whatever, kill Cassio, I'm done with this guy. But he's not so sure about Desdemona, and he starts thinking about her positive qualities, how much he loves her. But then Iago says that actually that's the problem. She is cheating on you, and she's using those positive qualities to lure you in. He twists him into something malicious, and so Othello wants to kill her. He asks Iago for poison, but Iago says that instead it will be more just for him to strangle her in their marital bed, since she cheated on him in that very bed, which is of course not true, but for dramatic effect he's adding these extra details. After that, Ludovico comes in, and he has a message from the Duke, and he says that Othello must return to Venice immediately and leave Cassio to rule Cyprus in his wake. Well, temporarily, of course, and then someone else will gain control because they're these important generals, they're needed elsewhere. Othello is furious, well, because of the fact that Cassio gets to rule Cyprus and he has to return with his unfaithful wife. And then Desdemona comes in, and when she hears this, she says that, "Oh, but isn't this so sad? Ludovico, you should really help. Like, my husband and his best friend are fighting." Othello is furious for like what he thinks is sharing their marital problems, and so he smacks her, and then after that he tells her to leave. Desdemona is shocked that her loving husband is treating her this way, so she just leaves. She doesn't even like ask him what's wrong. And then Ludovico says like, how can you be treating your wife like this? He's shocked because Othello is not only not in control anymore, but he's treating the wife that he loves like this, and hitting someone is definitely not saying that you love them. And then after that, Ludovico orders for Othello to call Desdemona back and to sort this all out. And Othello does call her back, but when he sees her, he's furious. He calls her a loose woman and sends her away again. After that, he storms off, saying that he will obey the Duke's orders. And then Ludovico is shocked and he's left alone with Iago, and Iago quickly says that, oh, well, haven't you heard? Othello, I think he's having like mental problems, he's going insane, like you should really observe him to make sure that everything is okay. In scene 2, Othello asks Emilia about Desdemona and Cassio, and Emilia honestly says that, well, she never saw them doing anything that's wrong, and Othello doesn't really believe her. He thinks he's just protecting her friend, but is somewhat subdued, so he just leaves her alone. After that, Emilia and Desdemona talk to each other, and Emilia comforts Desdemona and says, well, you know, it's okay, sometimes men act like this, I'm sure it's just a bad patch in your marriage, like something wrong, it's just the stress. But then Iago comes in and the two of them interrogate him to find out what's wrong, like what does he think Desdemona do? And then Emilia, because she's very perceptive actually, she says that it must be some eternal villain looking for some office. So it's clear that someone is interfering in their like romantic relationship. And then Iago quickly realizes that she might put things together, so she just reassures them that no, it's the stress, it's fine. He'll be back to good in no time. Emilia and Desdemona talk some more, and Emilia says like, oh, I'm so sorry, I wish you never met him. And Desdemona says, no, don't say that, I genuinely love him, I'm sure it's just a bad patch, and when he comes back our relationship will be even sweeter. Is it abusive? Yes, but it also shows that she's very devoted to her husband and she couldn't be anything more unlike what Iago said, so she remains faithful to him even when he's treating him badly, which again is not good, please do not do that, but like for the purpose of drama, it shows how Iago is very easily manipulating Othello into believing that Desdemona is someone she's not. But Desdemona is also willing to die, which is very concerning, and she tells Emilia that if she does die, please like bury me in my wedding sheets shroud, so I will always love him, I want to be with him in death. And she also sings this song, and the song is about a woman whose husband went mad and abandoned her, and so it's a very suitable song, and later Emilia sings it herself when she is dying. Iago convinces Rodrigo to kill Cassio. This is the night to kill Cassio, do it now, it's dark. And he figures that if Rodrigo kills Cassio, it's a win for him because Cassio is dead, and if Cassio kills Rodrigo, it's a win for him because he gets to keep the money that Rodrigo gave to him. So he sends in Rodrigo to attack Cassio, but actually, well, Iago was lying at the beginning. Cassio is not just this arithmetician, Cassio is a good fighter. Cassio defeats Rodrigo and stabs him. Then Iago runs in and stabs Cassio in the leg, and Othello is walking by and he sees this, and he's so honored that Iago is hurting someone he thinks his friend for Othello that he figures, yes, Iago is absolutely right, Desdemona must be dead. Then Ludovico comes in and he can't see who's hurt, and Iago stabbed Cassio before and ran away, and Othello thinks that of course he killed him. But then Ludovico comes in and Iago runs in with a lantern, so he saw this in advance, he went to grab the lantern, and he says that, oh, I saw Rodrigo attack Cassio, and he quickly stabs Rodrigo, killing him. This shows that he doesn't even have honesty for his allies, he really only does think about himself. Iago then sees Bianca come in, and Bianca is like so concerned for Cassio, he figures it's better to implicate Bianca as well. So he says that Bianca was involved in the plot because of the way that Cassio treated her, and he just essentially says that, oh yeah, she definitely plotted with Rodrigo. Nobody believes Bianca, even though she's innocent, because she's more like of a woman considered with loose morals, and Emilia actually yells at her. Even though Bianca is innocent, and Bianca tells her she's innocent, she has her own assumptions about women, even though she is a woman, showing the extent of like gender prejudices at the time as well, and so she judges Bianca and condemns her too, and Bianca is taken to prison. Iago turns to the audience and says, this is the night. So this is it. This is the moment he's been waiting for. This is the moment he's been planning for. He's the puppet master. He's in control and he wants everything done. He wants Othello ruined. Othello walks in to kill Desdemona. He sees Desdemona lying on her bed and, he's almost not doing it. So he almost thinks against it. But then Desdemona wakes up and he's overcome by rage, all of his emotions, and he tells Desdemona to pray because he's going to kill her. Desdemona begs him for a few more minutes to live and asks him what's wrong. Othello accuses her of cheating and and he says that he knows all about her and Cassio and that Cassio is dead. Desdemona starts weeping because she's so upset that her husband thinks this about her. She genuinely loves him, and she's also upset that Cassio is dead because her husband has killed his best friend, and that's murder, that's a sin. But this makes Othello furious because he thinks that she's grieving for Cassio, who she's cheating on him with, so he begins to smother her with a pillow. He does this very slowly, but Emilia comes in, and Emilia cries out, but Othello ignores her because he's just so lost in reality. He wants to murder Desdemona. This is his sole focus. This is his sole aim. He doesn't hear Emilia. He doesn't distinguish reality. He leaves Desdemona and goes to talk to Emilia, and she says, "Did you know Cassio was not dead, but Rodrigo was dead because Rodrigo stabbed Cassio?" Othello is in shock, and at that moment Desdemona cries out because her death is very slow. Othello didn't quite kill her, and she's in agony. Her death is she's dying, she's losing her last breath, and she wants to shout to Emilia, and she says, "Oh, I killed myself," because she wants to protect Othello even in her death, but she's dying and she wants Emilia to hold her promise. But Emilia puts two and two together. She realizes that it is Othello who killed Desdemona, and she is utterly shocked, and Othello even proudly admits it because he thinks he has done the right thing. And probably he's lost his wits already. And Emilia says, "The Moor has killed my mistress." And Graziano, Desdemona's uncle, comes in, and he says that he's shocked first of all, and he says that maybe it's a good thing that Brabantio, Desdemona's father, died because of grief at their marriage, because it's good that he didn't see this. And so Othello genuinely becomes an outsider now because he has committed the sin. So even though he was respected before, he's lost every single ounce of respect. Emilia, as Othello starts to explain why he did what he did, puts two and two together, and she chooses to betray her husband and to actually betray him for the force of good, and she says, "Oh my god, Iago did it." Iago tells her to shut up once he realizes that she's realizing, and he stabs her for her betrayal and leaves. Emilia is dying, she sings that song, she dies. Then Ludovico captures Iago, and he comes in and he tells Graziano of what has happened. He found letters that give proof of the sins that Iago has committed. Othello kills himself because he has found out that he has done all this wrong in his life. And can we actually talk about the fact that Emilia was willing to lie about her husband, whom she loves very much, for her best friend, for Desdemona, for the truth. She died for the truth, and so none of the women were actually the villains who were willing to do anything for their husbands and also to cheat on their husbands, so all the prejudices were wrong. And then after Othello kills himself, Ludovico decides that this is it. Graziano will be the heir to Cyprus, and Cassio can kill Iago, and he leaves to Venice to tell news of what has happened. And the story sadly ends there, and the curtain falls. Alright, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video helped. If it did, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe because it really helps for the algorithm, and I hope my videos put out to more students and hopefully it helps more people. If you have any other requests, please do let me know. I will try and do them as soon as possible, but I would also like to remind you that I now have a Buy Me a Coffee for people who have videos that they want made with urgent priority within a week. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.